Thanks for tuning in to this election edition of the Renshaw Report, Murray the Eye, reporting from the city Too Tough to Die, New London. And our guest today is Aaron Ide. He's a New London guy, fell in love with New London, got a beautiful wife and daughter, interested in getting into politics. He's running for city council. The election is 5 days away. We don't have much time. Before we get right to it, Aaron, I did want to mention that New London lost another great one this week. Spencer Lancaster passed away. Wonderful man, very proud of his service to our country. He was in the 82nd Airborne. Just a great guy, and our condolences go out to the Lancaster family. It's a big family, and I love them all, and I love Spencer. And he's going to be sadly missed by many. So, Aaron, I've read your campaign literature. I know that you have a love for New London. You got involved there. How are you going to win this election with what you got going against you? What is your campaign strategy?
So my strategy is just to work harder. The way I see it, the Democrats start on third base and they treat every victory like a home run. So I've been campaigning since July, doing doors. I think for the first time in any campaign I've been involved in New London, we're going to probably hit every single door in New London, at least the individual doors. Right, some of the apartment buildings are a little hard to get into, do every door in there. But walking and doing doors, meeting people, doing meet and greets. We've had probably a dozen meet and greets. We have voter registration drives going out, just going out and talking to people and humanizing the city council. Right. I think one of the things we're trying to do is the Republican, the three of us running, myself, Gina, and John Russell, is try to humanize the city council candidates, and Beloved as well, and John Martin for mayor and board of ed respectively, trying to put a face on it. Right, the Democrats are voting, have always ran on the vote A all the way, run the party line, and we're trying to run that. We're humans, we're New Londoners, we're all neighbors. And we want what's best for the city, and we want to do better and use our expertise. We have very different lived experiences and history, and use what we're good at to help make the city better.
Aaron is an engineer, so I know you're very analytical. How many people have you come into contact so far, would you say?
Total number, so I have around 250 door hangers left, and I bought 2,500, so take that out. I'm about 2,000 something.
Really? You've
plus.
Come into contact with 2,000 people?
Hopefully, yeah. So the way I look at it, I need about 1,800 votes to win. During a mayoral election, the 7th seat's around 1,800. 18,
that's a lot of votes. You expect a high voter turnout, Aaron?
For the mayorals, it seems to be on the higher side. So the non-mayorals, it's usually a little lower. I think it was 1,302 2 years ago for the number 7th seat. For the mayoral years, it's around 1,800, maybe 1,500. I think 1 year was a lower turnout. So trying to go out, and obviously not everyone I talk to is a fan or is going to vote for you. So aiming for 2,500. If I can win over 2,500 people, at least contact and talk to them and show them I'm serious and I am running a real campaign and I want to do what's best for the city, and I want to have the best interest of the New London people. In my heart and in my mind, that I want to do what I can to make New London better. So,
what's on the minds of the people that you're meeting? What are the people thinking about out there?
I think a lot of times it's all just basic checkbook and quality of life issues. The big national politics doesn't really seem to pop up with anyone's concerns. Things like the new circle outside the high school, right? Seeing the school buses jump the curbs scares people, right? You have kids on school buses, and the school buses can't make a roundabout in front of a school, or that the drainage grade on it is higher than the lowest point, so it fills with water every time it rains.
Yeah, but they corrected that, didn't they?
No, I don't believe so, not yet.
No.
It was
But isn't that a state project? That's not a city project, is it?
Yeah, it's a state road, but I think the city's. Yeah, it'd have to be like in the name of the contractor, but yeah, it's contracted with the state. But still, it's just poor planning, right? So when they go in, the city's not completely uninvolved in these kind of things, right? They goes through the Public Works Department to make sure that we get the permitting and the clearances and the easements and things like that.
So specifically, obviously, you've stated in your campaign literature you feel that the sitting council is a rubber stamp for the mayor.
I think the record proves it, right? It's been 7-0 or 6-1 votes on pretty much everything that they actually vote on. And most of it goes to the CAM agenda, right, the consent agenda. So 9 out of 10 things every week goes to the consent agenda, gets voted on without any discussion, and gets pushed through.
All right, and now that is not new to the city of New London. That's been going on for years. Specifically, what is your biggest difference between anybody on that council now and what you would do, other than the drainage thing in the circle? What else are you unhappy with?
I want to see people have a debate and discussion on what the next step is. So, like I said, working at EB, we take quality very seriously, right? Because people's lives are dependent on it. You know, it's a submarine, you're underwater in a harsh environment, so quality is always top of our mind. One of the sayings that's kind of ingrained in my mind is failure to plan is planning to fail, and we don't seem to do that. When we pass things...
Can you be specific on that? What example can you give me other than that?
Again, to infrastructure, Montauk Avenue, they repaved it 7-8 years ago. Then they tore it up to put new gas line, our curbs in 3 or 4 years ago, in new gas lines in. And now they're doing the water main lead removal. So we're tearing up sections already in different places in the city. So in the 13 years I've lived in New London off of Montauk Avenue, I've seen it torn up 3 times. Why aren't we planning to do these kind of infrastructure projects?
Is Montauk a state road as well, or is it under the jurisdiction of New London?
I believe it's a city road, city street.
What else? What else don't you like? What else do you think this council has not done that they should do? Because, quite frankly, things are booming in New London.
I think housing is booming. We're building a lot of things. We're creating a lot of apartment buildings. I have a concern with apartments because it doesn't let you store any wealth. I think the #1 storage of equity in the middle class in the United States is in home ownership or property ownership. Most people's primary residence is their primary investment in their lives. So when you're pushing apartment buildings, yes, you need apartments, right? You have a high urban density in the city.
Based on EB, by the way, is the building of the apartments.
So some of those apartments I think are going to be priced out of the range of most people at EB. I'm relatively, let's say, lower level management, and I would have trouble paying $4,000 a month to at the high end of some of those new apartments that they're promoting. So I'm not sure that they have the price point right now, but again, once they build it, they may have to come down.
Well, the going rate right now is about $2,600, I believe, for a studio, or for
I think 22 for a studio and like 25, 26 for a studio. Yeah, that's what seem to be the new.
What should government do to control that, and why is government even involved with that?
I don't think the government should be involved in that. That's what I'm saying. What we're doing now, you said the city's booming. We're booming in building rental properties. What I want to do is I want to see flip that around and have the city promote home ownership. Get out of trying to promote building these big,
But how would the city be involved in that?
So I want to see a tax abatement for first-time home buyers. So
tax abatement for how long?
For a cap on spending. So if you buy a property and you invest in that property, and so you buy a house and you put let's say 20 grand. I'm setting it at 20 because I think it's a realistic dollar figure for doing some a decent amount of small improvements without being a massive loss in tax revenue to the city. So again, instead of paying people or giving money to people to develop things and giving certain people, ARPA funds to fix the roofs or windows on their house, on their properties like we've been doing, I want to use tax abatements and say, hey, if you buy a house, it's owner occupied, you live in the city, you buy the house and you're the owner, you're a first-time home buyer, it's the first property you own, and you put X amount of dollars, up to 20 grand into that property, you don't have to pay the first 20 grand in taxes to the city, right? So it's a win-win-win-win, right? So
you mean for the first year? For
the first few years, because most of the properties in New London aren't paying $20,000 a year in taxes. So 4 or 5 years until your abatement runs out. So if you put in 20 grand in new windows through like a licensed contractor and have a way to validate, right? So like I said, planning, right? So it comes down to having a robust system so it doesn't get scammed and it doesn't get gamed, but you have a system that people can then put the money into the property responsibly, improve those derelict, improve some of the old housing stuff. New London has a lot of housing, but a lot of it's old. Right? We have very old housing stuff. A lot of the city, trust me, I've been doing stairs the last week, going up and down people's front stairs. There's a lot of buildings that were single-family homes that were converted into multifamily homes and then let go derelict. And then I'd love to see some of those be turned either back and renovated and have an owner living in one unit and renting out the other one, so they have a source of income.
At the same time, Aaron, the housing stock, there aren't many houses available even for sale.
I agree.
Right now, and what would that do to people like me who've been paying taxes all these years? You mentioned the investment in downtown, millions of dollars that have been invested downtown. Many of us are always on the wrong side of the tracks. We're not in the enterprise zone, but we paid our taxes all the year. We're kind of tired of getting left out, to be honest with you. And every governmental plan seems to be worse than the first one. From where we're sitting, from the people who are able to take advantage of it, it's great.
So that's what I want to see it spread out, right? So I think right now, and you see this if you look at the city council records, right? You go back to the beginning of October or to June, you'll see individual people's names receiving $50,000 in ARPA funding. How COVID relief money should be going to someone's personal property is beyond me, but that's what our city council...
Who made that call?
City council has voted on the budget. So there are certain people that have bought properties in downtown. They've won over the favor of people in power here, and they put through the application process, and they get the money. So they get money to put new windows in. I want to stop having that be where it's who you know and who you're connected to in the city, and make it available to everyone. And instead of being that the city is going to give you a grant for $50,000, which could be misused and misconstrued, have it where if you actually do the work and get a receipt. So instead of money being given to a person to take the money, or that money goes, like first-time home buyer credit we used to have in Connecticut, goes to a bank, right? Instead of having some of this down payment assistance going from the state to a mortgage company, I want to see that money that the people have go into being invested in their property, and then the city just not take taxes. I want to reduce the amount of taxes that some people are paying if they're investing in their own property, and limit it to one person, one building at one time.
You mentioned that you wanted to see some legitimate debate on the issues. There has been absolutely no debate of any kind with regard to this election. The day paper, I believe, used to interview the candidates. Did they interview any of the candidates to date? I'm told that you were asked to write a letter, and that's how they're going to make up their mind on who to endorse, and their endorsement carries weight. Is that possible?
So they asked us to write a 200-word letter, like a letter to the editor of what we thought was our most important issue. I wrote one about having a voice in discussion and representing all the people with a diversity of opinion, as well as every other form of diversity, right? That we don't seem to have a diversity of opinion when it comes to a 7-0 vote every time on everything that the council approves. So they asked us for these letters, and then they boiled it down to the one article I think they put out last week. Basically, they boiled our 200 words down to 2 sentences or 3 sentences, which we had to modify or correct because a number of things were incorrect in what they did. Just copying and pasting, they got missed.
When you say they, who are you dealing with?
The day had some factual accuracy.
What person are you dealing with the day?
I believe John Penny, I believe is his name. I have never actually met him. I got an email from him saying.
I think that's disgraceful, and I think the day has done us a disservice, everybody a disservice, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green, and the citizens, a great disservice in this. But
so to your other point, though, we did actually have a debate. So Hearing Youth Voices, Step Up New London, and Fresh New London hosted a debate at All Souls Church 3 weeks ago now. Every candidate was, for city council and for mayor. So for the mayor debate, Eddie Long and Beloved Carter came and they discussed their issues and their policy. The mayor did not show up. For the council, I believe Gina was intending to show up, but she had a work emergency she had to make. John Russell declined. All six incumbent Democrats declined, and Jeff Hartz, who's the only non-incumbent running for the Democrats, showed up, as well as Shanice Austin, who's running for the Greens, and myself, obviously. So there was a three-way debate for the council, for the 11 of us running for council.
Oh, was it a spirited debate? Was it a good debate?
I think it was a pretty. It was spirited at times. I think I was surprised. I was running as a Republican, and with groups like Step Up New London, Hearing Youth Voices, which are generally very progressive and very left-leaning. I actually got real applause and real cheers from people on some of the things, like the home buyer one, or trying to minimize on the number of back to the home buying thing, right? Trying to limit. You're saying there's little housing stock. A lot of it's because it's being bought up by LLCs, right? So by incentivizing people to owner-occupied properties, if you look at the record of recent transactions, I don't have the exact statistic, but there's a good number of them that are LLC purchased. So they're being bought up.
What does that mean to you when it's an LLC purchase?
That it's companies buying them up as either.
It's not owner-occupied, basically.
I mean, by definition, if you're real intelligent and you want to create an LLC to own your own property that you're going to live in, and you're creating a business to own the manage that one property for tax purposes or whatever, sure. But for the most part, they seem to be larger companies that are buying them up either for short-term or long-term rental properties. I think the short-term rental market's kind of having a bubble right now. All those companies that bought up tens of thousands of properties around the country that turned into Airbnbs are finally bursting the bubble. That's not economically feasible for them anymore. The rate's going up now, but
a very controversial issue we do hear about quite frequently is affordable housing. What's your take on it, and what's the solution to it?
So I think the solution is more stock. I think the city shouldn't be getting into the landlord game. We shouldn't be aiming to build more housing projects. I think 60, 70 years now of urban rehab has proven that it doesn't work, right? You just create pockets of poverty by putting all your poorest, most destitute and lowest income people in one section of the city and kind of hiding them away from the rest of the city is overall a bad idea. You have to have enough housing stock that when people can move up, they can move from subsidized housing or Section 8 housing into cheaper and more affordable housing. The rental properties I was talking about before, right? And some and enough units that there's always another relief valve for people to move up. Because when you have a lot of below market rate in one area, it just drives up the price for the rest of the rates around it. And because now you don't have enough housing stock, so it only benefits the people that get those 200 units or 300 units or 500 units. There's never going to be enough for the demand, and more and more New London is becoming the social services capital of Southeastern Connecticut, right? So
always has been. That's what they wanted.
Yeah, so we get people coming here from all over the region, and we're going to keep trying to. We'll never build enough that we'll be able to absorb it, right? So it's just the more low-income housing we create, the more people that Groton will send over our way or whatever, right? Maybe intentionally or not intentionally. People joke, are they really dropping people off in New London, right? Are these other towns dropping homeless off in our city? And I don't think they do it intentionally, but I think a lot of times you'll have people with mental health issues or addiction issues being taken to L&M, and when they get discharged, they just don't have a way to get home. And now they end up on our streets in our meal centers and our homeless hospitality center.
Do you feel that the police department is properly manned, and do or we do not need more patrolmen?
So I think overall we have a public safety perception issue in this city. I think the short answer is yes, we need more patrolmen, we need more visibility, we need to increase the perception that New London cares about public safety. And I think we don't have that. I think a lot of people that live in the city. So
you're saying we need to hire more patrolmen? Yes?
I think we do, but we have to also market to the police officers, right?
We have to what?
Market working for New London, right? They are still employees of the city. We need to market to the city and to these future New London police officers that they want to work in New London. Right now, we have a council that's been outright hostile to the police.
How so?
The defund the police referendum they did in 2020. A number of them are still in the same councilors that were here back then, right? So New London has a public safety perception problem. I think more so than safety, right?
Well, that's not new.
Understood, but so like I work at EB, right? Most of my coworkers, the vast majority do not live in New London, but they work in New London. The Monday after that shooting on Bank Street in August, I had two of my employees come to me and say, "Hey, we're not coming into work unless I can get a parking spot in the garage, behind the fence and behind the armed security, because I do not feel safe walking to a car parked in New London because there was a shooting downtown. And if we can't control gang violence or whatever the cause, the root cause of these things are, in our downtown on our busy, what's supposed to be our busy business area on a Saturday night, how can we tell people that come here to work that they should buy apartments or rent apartments or buy housing in New London and go to restaurants in the city and do things like that?" And I think you see the outcome of these things, right? How many tens of thousands or millions of dollars of income did that shooting have? And the other small crimes, the other murder that we had last, earlier in the summer, because of this, right? We've had, what, four restaurants closed in the last 2 months?
But can government control that? I mean,
I think policing. I think it goes back to your...
This is what's happening in the world we're living in today.
I think visible policing, right? It doesn't have to be even the police as much. Right? We have to have a certain number of firefighters on duty, including the medics. I think it's 16 at any given time. But we don't have that same thing for the police. So like food stroll, Officer Stuckey, so during the food stroll like a month ago, Officer Stuckey was the only police officer in New London on patrol. For a big event with people from all over the region, he was the only police officer. One police officer. You have a dispatcher and a police officer. That's ridiculous. That's how we staff our policing in the city.
What did Chief Wright, I mean, I find Chief Wright to be a good chief.
Yeah.
Did anybody contact him and ask him why?
I had the conversation. Part of it was just staffing, right? The hours they have, who is available. I think overall we just have to get back to the idea of having beat police, right? Having people in uniform, visible.
Why don't we?
I don't know. I think part of it's just one. We've made it difficult to hire, right? Because we made it so New London is not a desirable place for a police officer to work, right? Because my father-in-law is a retired Westerly police officer. So I think the number one thing when I talk with him on all these policing issues has been police officers just want to be treated like other human beings, right? They still have, he had to come home to my wife, his daughter, every day at the end of the shift. They have families. They want to go home and be with their families. They want to be treated as human beings. They want to work for a mayor and a chief that care about them, and a council that's going to have their back, and they want to feel like they're being supported by their municipality.
Absolutely.
And I think because we've made a visible effort in the city to not support our police, we have a perception problem to the wider police force. We also have a perception issue to a demographic in this community that have been taught or trained or feel threatened by the police, that they feel like the police are here to occupy.
Who on the city council led this charge to defund the police department? I don't remember how it was orchestrated, and who.
Trying to think.
I mean, that should be a big issue in this election.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who actually. I don't want to speak out of turn here,
But the city council went on record as
they defunded the police. Yes, we had to do a referendum. So in August of 2020, we had after the George Floyd protests in May and June, the city council waived the 3 readings, pushed through the or maybe 21 rather. It was the summer of 21. We had a referendum, and they said we want to get rid of the 80-person ordinance, 80-person manning ordinance, and pushed it through. And John Russell, who's actually running for city council now, led up the charge for getting the signatures for that petition to bring this to referendum. So he used his experience of knowing the charter and being a former counselor to bring this to referendum. And we sat in different coffee shops and restaurants and storefronts in downtown that, because the business owners in New London.
I don't even remember the referendum. What were the results of the referendum?
Overwhelmingly overturned, that we went back to the 80-man staffing level.
But yet we don't have an 80-man
yet we've never gotten back up to the 80-man staffing level.
And if it's in the charter and we need it, I don't understand why we can't achieve it. I don't buy the idea that people don't want to be policemen in New London. There's people out there. There's talent out there.
It's part of it, but I agree that we have to try harder to actually get them and recruit them.
Let's talk about the city charter. Are you a student of the city charter? Do you know what's in it?
I am trying really hard to learn it. It's a, I totally want to understand as much as I can. I started with the city council one because that's what I'm running for, and I've been trying to learn bits of it. Certain things, but that's a good point, right? You brought up, we have on the books in New London that we need 80 police officers. Another one that bothers me is we have 3 readings, that you're supposed to bring something up for 3 readings for 3 consecutive council meetings before it gets voted on for the 3rd and final reading and passed into law. But you need, I believe, 5 out of 7 to vote, or 6 out of 7 to vote to waive those 3 readings. So what we do is we waive it and we push the thing through, so we don't have to read it 3 times in 3 meetings, which means you don't get 6 weeks or 6 or 7 weeks for the general public to go and review it and see what's happening. Something gets put on the agenda, it gets pushed through immediately, they waive it, push it through immediately, and it's to people like me or John Russell to know what's going on, pay attention, read the minutes from the last council meeting, or go to the council meetings, or watch them on YouTube, and say, hey, we disagree with that. Why did this get pushed through? But for the most part, people don't pay attention, right?
It's difficult. It's difficult. I don't know. Do you attend the city council meetings?
I have some. I try to watch them on YouTube if I can't make
Yeah.
it on Monday, so I'll watch them, Monday night
Yeah.
afterwards, or Tuesday night, or whenever I get a chance to.
It's difficult to follow, and I think people are tired. But we need involvement. We need people to be involved in any community.
Yeah.
If you go into the city council meetings, nobody goes. It's kind of frustrating at times. Yeah,
no, you just made a public comment, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks, 3 council meetings ago, 2 or 3 ones?
I don't think so.
One of the ones I was watching earlier this election cycle, I thought you were at, so.
I could have been there, but I probably forgot. But so we're running a little bit low on time, Aaron. But let's bring up some other points that you want the people to know why they should elect you to the City Council 2023.
So I guess I'll get in trouble for EB Security. So when EB Security is watching this, I not talking about what I do at EB, but how I do it. My job at work is a project lead. So the way I look at it, I am a conductor of an orchestra. I get a task, I get a budget, I get people, I get a schedule and requirements. And my job is to take a bunch of engineers and designers that are all working differently, kind of like your musicians in an orchestra, who are all making noise by themselves as a cacophony, and turn it into a symphony. So my day job is to to change noise into something beautiful, or to make something that works and make something that functions as a whole. So that's the best way I try to describe my job. Right? My job is to fix problems and to make things happen. And I'm an engineer by training. I have not been practicing as an engineer because at EB, engineering is an organization, and you're badged to that organization. You have signature authority as an engineer. Now I'm on the management side. So in addition to that, to keep my engineering skills up, I have a side company with some friends that we're building half-scale World War II fighter aircraft, replica fighters. So right now we have a P-36 and we're working on a P-40. So trying to use my engineering skills. I went to school for aeronautical engineering. I figured it would be a waste if I never actually designed and built an airplane. So I designed and built an airplane. So when I want something, I want to try it, I want to work hard on it. I'm going to put my all into doing it. Same thing with the city council. I want to, I see that we're lacking. I have a skill set that I don't see any of the other people on the council having, which being in program management, being an engineer, having an analytical mind. Everyone seems to care, right? I care. Everyone on the council, assume positive intent, right? I assume they all have positive intent and goodwill to make the city better. We have very different backgrounds, and I think I bring to the table something that they don't, which is just a different perspective on how to look at problems, right? By nature and by training, engineers look at the world as problems looking for solutions, things that need to be fixed, right? You're in plumbing. My furnace wasn't working, so what I did, most people would call you. I spent 4 hours trying to fix it myself, figured out the entire electrical system in my furnace until I realized that the solder on one of the things on my low water tank thing was broken, and I was able to resolder it back in and put some lock wire tie in place, right?
You said earlier you didn't think the city was run efficiently. What would you do to fix that?
I want to see a 50-year infrastructure plan. I want to see a super long-term. Right?
Whose job is it to write that?
I would assign it to Director of Public Works to start out with that, right? They manage, so we have Veolia doing water, we have Comcast doing cable, right? We have different infrastructure in the city, but the city is not designed to last for 2 years. It's 400 years old, and it's designed to last for another 400 years, or should be designed to last for another 400 years. And we can't plan things longer than, it seems like 6 weeks at a time in the city. Problem comes up, they go fix it, they come get more money, do something else, do this. I want to have a long-term plan and let it be revised every 2 years and let the council vote to approve it every 2 years, just like we do a budget. I want to see the city have an infrastructure plan the same way we approve a budget. So it says, hey, as part of their budgeting process, they have to give us the plan of what's being fixed when. So I want to see that in 2062, we're going to take down all the telephone poles and replace them with buried cable or whatever. And we're going to be doing that at the same time. We're going to repave these streets. So over a 5-year period, we're going to bury cables so they don't have to worry about the power lines, trees knocking down power lines every time we get a hurricane.
What are your thoughts on Ocean Beach?
I like it. I mean, as a city property, it's one of our better.
It's a gem.
Huh? It's a gem. Yeah, it's one of. New London has so many awesome things, right? One of the reasons I fell in love with the city and want to live here, and I never really been a suburban kind of person. We have, like you said, gems. We have these things in the city that we can take pride in. I think Ocean Beach is one of those things. I love seeing the traffic come down every weekend in the summertime for people from all over, from out of state, coming down to come to our beaches.
Aaron, we're going to be out of time pretty quick. Sum up with anything else you'd like to say.
I think vote for me on November 7th and next Tuesday.
All right. Listen, you got to get out. You got to knock on doors. You need at least 100 tonight. And I thank you for running.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a pleasure. Well, I've met you before. Yeah. It's a pleasure having you on the show. And folks out there, I think Aaron deserves your consideration. He's smart, he's young, and he's driven. Aaron and I, best of luck next Tuesday.
Yep, Tuesday.
Maria signing off from the city. Too tough to die, New London.